What's up, Bills Mafia? Fernando Schmude here with another leading the charge ahead of the Bills preseason week 3 game against the Chicago Bears. In another game where we will see the starters playing, including Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and company. That's not something that we are used to see from Coach McDermott, the starters playing throughout week 3 of preseason, but it's kind of expected after the poor performance against the Bears last week, and we really felt a bad taste about the starters' performance last week. It was reminiscent of the game against the Bengals, where when the Bills really woke up, the game was already 14-0, and they gotta recover and get out of that hole they put themselves in. So thankfully, week 2 of preseason really doesn't matter, or the results, at least the final results, the scoreboard really doesn't matter. But the Bills are getting prepared to face the New York Jets, a hyped team. In week 1, Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers just making his debut for the Jets, and a team that already gave some problems to the Bills last season with a strong and young defense, and now with a Hall of Famer quarterback at the helm, and some veterans like Dalvin Cook joining in, and other former Packers joining Rodgers there. So that's a team that really wanna go farther during this season, and they really want to be seen as contenders, and to do so, nothing bad, not better than beat the Bills on the first game of the season, a Monday Night Football, with all the country, all the world watching, right? So it's a dangerous game, and the Bills must be prepared. And I can understand Coach McDermott wanting his starters to play a little bit better, or to get out of the field before this game against the Jets, feeling a little bit better about themselves, feeling more ready and more prepared for this challenge in week 1, and so they can start the season on a high note and with a division win. So all of these things are really important, and that's why it's easy to understand why McDermott wants his starters playing against the Bears. We are really a little bit worried about not losing people during those meaningless preseason games. I can understand that, and we've already had some injuries during camp. Terrell Bernard still not ready to battle for the middle linebacker spot. We'll go further on this subject during this episode, but also we just lost Connor McGovern, the priced free agent who arrived and has done a nice job playing left guard. Is out indefinitely, according to the head coach. Von Miller is not back yet. We haven't seen Jordan Phillips back yet. So a lot of question marks, a lot of injuries, and it's natural to be a little bit worried about the starters, Josh Allen and the guys. But hopefully they can get in this game, play well, and get out as soon as possible with a good taste about their playing time, and as healthy as ever, so they can be ready for week 1. That's the main thing for this game against the Bears. But there are also a lot of other things to talk about, and I will do it today alongside with some bad fake news this week, right? We've heard about Diggs, we've heard about the Bills' lack of leadership inside the building. So a lot of whack stuff coming on this week from people who aren't even they don't even have football as their go-to sport, right? We see Stephen A. and we see Chris Broussard talking basketball all the time, and they have really awful takes in basketball too. So it's kind of expected to see them give some really whack takes about the Bills and about football. But it's national media, and the repercussion is going on, and we're gonna talk a little bit about this too in today's Leading the Charge. Feel free to comment in the YouTube section and hit that like button and subscribe to Buffalo Rumblings channel. Subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude's channel. Also, you can also listen to this episode on your favorite podcast aggregator, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you feel better listening to. Feel free to download and to play this episode. And I'm thankful for all Bills Mafia joining me and helping the Leading the Charge to keep growing and keep so I can keep talking about our Bills, right? Before starting to really talk about this matchup and all these weeks news, I have a message from Jay Spence the King has a message for you. So Jay Spence the King with a message.
Bills Mafia is back. Are you ready for it? The third annual Buffalo Rumblings IPA beer release party is going down September 16th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Resurgence Brewing Company located downtown at 55 Chicago Street. I'm going to tell you what, you do not want to miss this event. Come out and hang with Joe, Sarah, and the rest of the Buffalo Rumblings crew for the Megapod. You're going to want to bring your questions and be a part of the live stream. Get involved. It's going to be live. And this year, we're also going to have our friends from Fans of Buffalo joining the party and sponsoring the fun. They're going to be in the house to provide you with all the information you need to make your away game day experience the easiest and the most smooth that you've ever had in your life. I can promise you, they do their job very well. So make sure you make it out Saturday, September 16th, 6 p.m., Resurgence Brewing Company, 55 Chicago Street. Go Bills.
It's going to be fire, Bills Mafia. Don't miss this opportunity to join all the crew and talk some Bills live with the Buffalo Rumblings crew. It's going to be awesome. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there because I'm a little bit farther away, but I hope I can connect with all of you there and talk some Bills before that Bills Raiders Week 2 game, Week 2 matchup, and can't wait, Bills Mafia. So let's start talking about those fake news of this week, right? And Stephon Diggs wanting out of Buffalo, accordingly to Stephen A. Smith. So bad talk, like I said, kind of whack thing coming from Stephen A. And it's ridiculous. The man himself, Stephon Diggs, came out before in his last interview when he was made available to the media and talked how he wants even to finish his career in Buffalo. And Stephen A. making up this stuff, and I can't really come with sources, but we've seen the trend around, and even we can already put alongside this bad fake news, Chris Broussard saying, oh, the Bills lack leadership from Josh Allen and from Sean McDermott. Man, and if you see the video and he's talking about the Bills, and out of nothing, he doesn't have even a reason for that. He's like, I feel, and he says, Bookie Brooks, I feel from afar that the Bills lack leadership from McDermott and from Allen. Man, how do you feel something like this? And without following the team closely, without being in the building. So it's really a crappy thing to say. Makes zero sense. And everybody who has followed McDermott and Allen since the beginning, if you want to criticize McDermott, okay, there are reasons to criticize the coach for some of his performances, blunders, some of his mistakes, some of his questionable calls. But the culture, you want to criticize the culture that he has established in the One Bills drive since he was hired, it makes zero sense. That's a no-nonsense guy who works really hard. He never hands out jobs to people based on draft status or based on what they did previously. Guys gotta come in and really earn their playing time and their space in the team and among the starters. So I really can't understand you questioning Sean McDermott as a leader and as a culture maker, or a guy who establishes a culture. I can't really point out to better examples than Coach McDermott. That's a guy who really puts what's right in front of anything else. And guys got to work hard. Guys got to be part of the family. And it's not so common. The word family is tossed around a lot in sports, not just in football, but it's hard to have a family like atmosphere in a locker room, because at the end of the day, there is the business side of the things, and and you can't really act like family all the time. And a lot of people feel like, oh, it was family when I was playing well, and now that I don't play well anymore and I got cut, it's not family anymore. And okay, there the thing is, there is there always will have some kind of situation like this. Maybe Cole Beasley doesn't feel good about the culture anymore, or we remember Quinton Spain having his issues when he got cut or benched first and then cut. But at the end of the day, most of the guys who are there describe the team and the personal groups, the rooms. The latest was Quinty Morris, the tight end. In his interview, he was available. He was made available to the media today, and he was talking about the tight end room and describing it like family-like. So guys really love to be there. They love to play for McDermott. They love to play alongside each other. So he really could build a nice atmosphere, a nice culture, a winning culture in a franchise that lacked it for 17 years. And I don't know how you can question this guy as a leader. Is he perfect? No, he isn't. Yes, he has. He's had some of mistakes. Uh, what he said to the media about Stephon Diggs, that they really fueled the talk about, because when he said he was concerned, he gave reason to everybody to feel concerned as well. So yes, he could have done better in several situations, but it doesn't make him a bad coach or a bad leader. And I really don't see where Broussard can see any lack of leadership coming from McDermott. And Josh Allen, man, even worse. We're talking about a guy who's being thrashed by media and draft evaluators, fans, players. I really can't remember anybody coming out to the league and being bad mouth as much as Josh Allen has been since the beginning, by players, by everybody. And the guy never said one bad thing about this to the media, to nobody. He always has said the right thing all the time. And then maybe he make people know on the field in the right place, like he did to Jalen Ramsey and has done consistently. Every time he sees Jalen Ramsey on the field, he kills the guy and he makes him remember his unfortunate words about Josh. And his playing has been the answer to all the critics, but he's never came to the media or to interviews and said one vengeful or bad thing about to anybody else. The guy is always saying the right things, treating everybody really well, being a nice leader, being one of the guys. As Von Miller, has been around Peyton Manning. He's been around a lot of winning people, Matt Stafford. And when asked about if Josh Allen could be compared those guys, he was like, he's in the same mode, with one difference. He's one of the guys. He's all the time choking and being one of the guys. So is he immature? I don't think so, because if he were, he wouldn't have all those great interviews without even let any little bad words slip about his critics or the other players that criticize him. So I really don't buy this stuff. It makes zero sense. The trend has been to find reasons to trash the Bills recently, and the trend has been, oh, I want to be the first to anticipate Bills fall down. So that has been the trend. And when a team arrives at the top, they only can go down. So it's not like the Bills has they have been at the top. They haven't won the Super Bowl yet, but people have seen a lot from Josh and from McDermott, and the years have passed. And yes, it's fair to question how long McDermott will be the coach if he can't win a Super Bowl soon. But people want to be the first. They always want to be the first to report or to point out that team will fail. And the trend now is to talk those things about the Bills. So yes, everything is possible. The Bills might have a bad season, and maybe McDermott can implode, and things can happen. We know things can happen in football. Anything can happen in sports, but it's highly unlikely that those Bills this year don't have another successful season, if not because of injuries, if not because of really crazy stuff happening. That's a good team. Don't let a bad preseason performance in week 2 fool you. And are they ready to win the Super Bowl right now? No, they aren't, but they are still great contenders, and they have all season to play themselves into Super Bowl form, and arriving in December and January, especially ready for a tough playoff battle against tough competition. The AFC is loaded, but to see they are lacking leadership, I I really doubt it, and it makes zero sense, Bills Mafia. So, Bills and Bears, right? Sorry, I even slipped on Bills e Bears like in Portuguese. My bad, Bills Mafia. It's hard sometimes to stay in English all the time. So, Bills and Bears, and a lot of things to see still. And I'd like to start with the starters playing, obviously. And McDermott himself said in the last interview, every preseason is a little bit different based on where guys are and where the team is. So McDermott's words, every preseason is a little bit different based on where guys are and where the team is. So why I'm quoting McDermott here? Because last year we saw the Bills having the starters. I mean, having one preseason game and like a couple of really good dominant series, and we never saw those guys again during preseason. And I think it's pretty fair to say that last season the Bills they were ready to win the Super Bowl in September. I think it's very fair to say that. And unfortunately, Super Bowls aren't playing in September, and that's where the Bills were really ready to compete and to win it all. And we saw a dominant performance against the champs in Los Angeles, and we followed by a strong performance against the Titans at home. So that team was on fire. They started the season hitting on all cylinders. And unfortunately, as the season moved on, we saw some injuries. We saw off the field issues, not related to the team, but the mass shooting in Buffalo, and even Kim Pegula's issues, healthy issues, and then inside the on the field also Hamlin and all the injuries to Von Miller and Micah Hyde, and even Josh Allen's injury. He was a gladiator. He was able to stay on the field with an injury that's really, really tough, and we really can't measure how hard it was to Josh to keep playing with that injury, but he did, and the Bills tried hard to stay playing well, but they never were the same after all those problems. And unfortunately, we saw a team really run out of gas against the Bengals, a well-prepared Bengals, a tough Bengals team that probably most likely are going to be contenders again this season. And right now we have the Bills not ready in September, and I see a lot of Bills Mafia panicking because of that. But the truth is, we saw the Bills totally ready in September, and that wasn't enough, and that wasn't even good for the Bills. And the Bills have issues now. The starters are gonna play week 3 of preseason because the coach and the coaching staff really didn't feel well about how they performed and how they played against the Steelers in week 2 of preseason, and they wanna give those players an opportunity to come to the field again before the Jets game and play better, play well, and feel a little bit better about themselves, not questioning themselves against the Jets. Imagine these guys not seeing the field against the Bears and just practicing until the Jets game. I'm not even talking about media talking trash and saying the Bills look bad and things like that, because that's fuel. That fuels the those guys to play better. But I tell about themselves as players, as teammates. Because when you play like the Bills playing against the Steelers, even if it's preseason, even if it's not an entire game, guys can start to question themselves a little bit. And McDermott doesn't want that. So I think it's smart to have the guys back on the field. I hope they can really start strong. And this time, I don't believe they're gonna come to the field just like they did in the last game, feeling too good about themselves, feeling like, oh, we are the almighty Bills, we are ready to dominate, and we're gonna dominate playing naturally. That's what we do, because that's not true. Okay, and the Bills can't fool themselves into this kind of line of thinking. So I hope they can really start strong against the Bears. They can come to this game really prepared and really ready to play, and avoid the mistakes that really uh, put them in a bad hole against the Steelers. And they can come in, start strong, have a couple of good series offensively with Josh at the helm, and defensively too, with the guys uh, playing well, communicating well, being in right position, maybe getting an interception, creating a turnover, so they can play a couple of series each and get out of the field healthy and be ready for week 1, feeling well about themselves and not questioning uh, anything about themselves based on one preseason game. So uh, I hope this happens. I think that's what happened last year in week 2, and that's possible for this week. So I hope they can do that. McDermott didn't say they're gonna stay for 1 quarter. They're gonna stay for 2 quarters or one series. He didn't give an idea about how long the starters will stay there, and that's obviously a hint that we will see them until they can really feel well about themselves. And I hope it can be early, and there is no reason to believe it won't be early. The Bears are improved this year. We're going to see our old pal, Tremaine Edmonds, on the other side of the ball. But I really believe the Bills can come in this game and really play dominant football early and get the starters out so the backups can fight for spots in the roster. There is a lot of places up for grabs, a lot of competition in several spots, and it's important for those guys to have those snaps in. What I want to see from starters, these kind of dominant performances. I'd like to see more of Kincaid and Josh and Kincaid building this chemistry in real game situation against Tremaine Edmonds in the middle of the field. It's going to be interesting. Um, Offensive lineman, we just lost Connor McGovern to injury during practice this week, and that's a shame because McGovern has been looked good so far, and I hope he can come back really stronger than ever and quick as soon as possible. But McDermott hasn't given any timetable for McGovern. And Ryan Bates, who's been competing for the right guard spot, might shift to the left side now to compete or to start or to compete with David Edwards on the left side. We know that Bates can play really well at the left guard spot. I hope in this preseason game against the Bears, Torrance can continue. He can continue to look good and play strong, play consistently well, because that's what he has done so far, and that's what the Bills need from him. So he can lock up that right guard spot. The Bills can never look back there and never worry about that. Obviously, he's a rookie. Obviously, he will struggle at some point. But if he can continue to play and show what he has showed, maturity, good communication skills, good recognition skills, about stunts, about blitzes, and being really rock solid and in pass protection, being strong and being able to avoid the push inside that pocket. If he can continue to do that against the Bears, he will lock up that spot, and Bates can shift to the left guard. And I really believe Bates can keep the level of McGovern's level of play. Bates is able to do so. And Edwards is another interesting option. Edwards is a guy who has started for the Rams during the Super Bowl season, and let them compete. We'll see Edwards, we'll see Bates. Bates has against him that thing that he's perfect for, a perfect backup for Morse, for Torrance, for McGovern, and even maybe we can see him getting some snaps at tackle, not in this preseason game, but the Bills can start to prepare him for a possibility of lining him up in Spencer Brown's place if the necessity arises. So it's going to be interesting to see Edwards in this game, to see Bates in this game. But yes, it's a shame that McGovern is out. But if there is a position where losing a starter really doesn't hurt as much, that's the left guard spot, in my opinion, because you can just insert Bates or even Edwards and still have good level there. So I hope it can be it can really happen in this game, and we can really feel like this after this next game without McGovern. I'd like to see Dawkins playing better. Dawkins has had some of those bad games here and there in the last few seasons, but he's been solid. He's been a good left tackle for a long time. I hope he can play better this game and get ready for the season. And I'd like to see in this game the running game resurge again, play a little bit better, help Josh Allen, because we had no consistency last week. I hope James Cook can be. I don't even ask for in this game him for James Cook to break a long run, but to consistently be able to get some good gains and maybe have Murray sprinkled here and there. Harris, I'm not sure if he's going to play, but it would be nice to see him playing too. I don't believe he will. That's it about the offensive side, about the starters and the backups. I just want to see those guys compete, because Khalil Shakir, who looked like a lock to make this roster, things are starting to look a little bit difficult for him right now. Andy Isabella is emerging as a guy who can contribute in the special teams as a gunner, maybe even as a returner and slot guy. He has the speed. He has done all the right things and has impressed the coaching staff. So Isabella emergency puts Shakir in a bad situation right now. Obviously, it's not just because he had a game where he didn't appear like the Steelers that he'll be out of the roster, but it would be good to Shakir to make some plays against the Bears and end the preseason in a high note. And Shorter has emerged too last game, and I'd like I'd like to see more from him, because Shorter is a kind of guy that I was I was like I was surprised to not hear more from all the media and everybody who has been following the practices and watching live from Shorter, because that's normally the kind of guy who looks good without pads and make a lot of plays um in shorts, because he's a freak athletically speaking, and so that's a guy who could easily jump higher than cornerbacks and make impressive catches in those situations. But people didn't really talk a lot about him, and finally against the Steelers we could see him doing well. I want to see a little bit more from him, but I think this guy is a lock to make the roster based on his potential alone. And then we have Hardy, who finally could. He was slot one against the Steelers, and I'm curious to see him if he's gonna have all those snaps with Knox and Kincaid on the field, because last game we really didn't have Dawson Knox, so it was easier to have Kincaid, to have Hardy out there, but with Knox back, a choice is gonna be made there. So I want to see this, and I want to see how this storyline develops, and Hardy gonna make more plays. I repeat that from other leading the charts, other episodes in the past. I haven't been really impressed by Hardy so far. I'd expected more. I expected more speed, more agility, and I haven't seen a lot of that. A lot of those exciting plays from him as a returner, and especially in the slot. So we'll see in this game if he can make or end the preseason on a good impression. And I'm really excited with Gabe and Kincaid. They're looking great, and I really believe they're gonna make this offense really good. So that's why I'm not really worried about this team so far, because or this offense especially so far, because even if the offensive line has been shaky sometimes, I believe this offense is going to be really good when it matters, because we have again other options to take pressure away of Diggs, something we didn't have late last season with Gabe Davis playing injured, and no other option outside him. So now with Gabe, Knox, Kincaid looking really good, and maybe Hardy, Sherfield in the rotation, the Bills finally have people to take some hit out of Diggs and give more options to Josh. I'm excited to see this happening this season. If I'm uh, really confident the offense is gonna look good during this season, and they're gonna be ready by week one with Josh at the helm. My only issue with the offense is really maybe not being able to pound the rock when they need to do so. But I believe they're gonna find a nice balance, and that the second and third and one, for example, from the first drive last week. If you put in there Damon Harris or Latavius Murray, you probably get that yard instead of Cook there. So they gotta find the balance in how to use their running backs properly. But I believe the offense will be fine, and the playmakers are there, and especially the quarterbacks there. So they're gonna be fine. Now, the other side of the ball is where we have a lot of question marks, especially on the competition, for spots. The middle linebacker spot still up for grabs, and McDermott has talked again about it and said that Dodson, Klein, and even Spector is back in the fold in the conversation. They're having a lot of snaps, a lot of opportunities, and he really can't separate any of those guys. And he talked a lot about Bernard, saying that Bernard has been back on the sidelines, working uh, lightly, but he has taken the mental reps. He's been the huddle alongside those guys, and I've never seen it before, but it really seems to me that Bernard has won the job not playing. What's weird? I've been high on Bernard for a long time now. People who's who has followed the leading the charge and who has followed me knows that I that's a pick that I really liked when it was made by Brendan Bean and 2 years ago. But people has been really down on Bernard all the time and never considered him an option to replace Edmonds. And all the time, everybody else was hyped at some point. Hyde, Dodson, Spector, Dorian Williams, everybody else but Bernard. And finally, it seems his time has come. Everybody expecting Bernard to save the middle linebacker spot from the Bills, and it has happened without him playing during his stint recovering on rehab. So it's crazy, but anyway, I really believe Bernard is gonna get his shot, and for some reasons, it's been pretty clear that Terrell Dodson isn't a good option there. I'm not really so down with Dodson as most people, but it's really questionable if he can do even a decent job there. And the last game really didn't look good for him. AJ Klein, he knows this defense really well, but that guy is slow, man. That guy is gonna be a big. He's gonna play with a huge target if he is the middle linebacker. People are gonna target him all the time, game plan, and really abuse Klein in coverage. So you can't start Klein there. Spector is he has some athleticism, but that's not. I don't know, man. I don't feel really confident with Spector there. I don't think he's ready to be a starter, and I don't know if he will ever be. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but Bernard always being my only option there short term. I love Dorian Williams' option there, but I can't see McDermott trusting him to be the Mike linebacker so early and make all the calls and have all the command of this defense. So especially not preparing him for this position alone. They prepared him to be Milano's backup. They prepared him to be a special teamer. He's Terrell Bernard a year ago. So I really hope they can get Dorian ready for this Mike linebacker job. And I really hope they can make him pay attention to all other guys, because this guy must be ready after week 8, after week 10. If by that point nobody else has held the job, and by nobody else I mean Terrell Bernard, because I can't see Klein doing so, and I really have lost. I have lost some confidence on Dodson during this preseason, to be honest. So if Bernard really can't be that Mike linebacker of his struggles with his health, Dorian will be our only option, our only shot of having somebody who can be interchangeable with Milano, who can really run and cover like Bernard. Dodson can do that. Klein can do that. And so I really hope Williams can be prepared for that. But the reason I believe Bernard is going to get his shot sooner rather than later is because McDermott has talked a lot about him recently, and we've seen Dodson not doing well and Klein being this kind of guy that I already told. So Bernard probably is getting his shot really soon, because the Bills, if he doesn't pan out, and if they really didn't or don't consider Dorian to be an option for this season, Brandon Bean must be forced to search for a trade candidate for this position. And it's hard to bring a veteran to take command of the defense during the season. So if they gotta go to this route, it must be done sooner rather than later. It gotta be done really soon. So sorry. So Bernard kind of the last option for the Bills as the Mike linebacker before they really need to try to be aggressive and find a solution outside the building, because Dodson has failed, Klein has failed, and even Spectre, I think he was the first one to fail because he was in the competition at one point, and then he wasn't anymore until Bernard got injured, and Dodson really struggled. So uh, I believe Bernard can beat the answer, but this injury really happened at the worst possible time, and it's hard to come back from a muscular problem and play at full 100% strength, and so it's a bad situation for Bernard. I hope he can recover real quick. I hope he can be ready for week one, and I believe if he's ready physically, he's gonna play a lot against the Jets, because that's a guy who it looks like he has the mental part on point so far. And that's it about the middle linebacker. At cornerback, we have another competition, but I believe there things are more kind of decided already because Dane Jackson hasn't made mistakes. Dane Jackson has taken advantage of all his opportunities, and it's gonna be tough to unseat him as a guy who not only the coaching staff trusts, but all the other players in the secondary are. I think they are really comfortable playing alongside Dan Jackson, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Trey White, Tyrone Johnson. Those guys really are comfortable playing alongside Dane, and I believe he's gonna win the job. Benford has made a push recently, making plays on practice field, but I believe he will need to do a lot during uh, this last stint during this game against the Bears to be able to unseat Dane, being a guy who also has some limitations in especially about his speed and his capacity of running with the quickest wide receivers. And then Kaiir Elam, a guy who's been has been a really disappointing, I believe, so far because the potential and the ability is there, and we've seen some flashes, especially against the Dolphins last playoffs. But the guy is simply trying too hard at this point. I don't know where he is at right now mentally, but it seems that he's really struggling so far, trying to do too much and being grabby and committing penalties, something that's really unacceptable for McDermott. And I really don't see Kyle Elam making a push right now, and maybe his only option and his only snaps will arrive during season if somebody gets injured and he gets an opportunity. But Benford is still a threat to get snaps ahead of him, just like he did last year. So Kair is in a hard spot, in a hard situation. What brings me to some thoughts, and I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for thinking about this so far, so early, but if Kyrie Irving is going to get buried in the depth chart behind Dane Jackson and Chris Benford, I believe maybe the best use of Kyrie Irving to help the Bills right now is to maybe use him in a trade scenario. And I hate to say that because I would really love to see Kyrie Irving playing at his full potential and becoming an important piece in this defense. The Bills need speed in this secondary. This secondary looked old against the Steelers, but it was just one game. Let's see how they play against the Bears. Let's see how they start week one against the Jets. But Poyer and Hyde never being the best athletes in the world or the fastest guys on the field. Trey White, okay, great athlete, but coming from an injury, and he's still just one player, Tyrone Johnson, inside. And then Taylor Rapp isn't known for his speed. Siron Neal, great athlete, has popped out during this preseason, playing fast, playing really well, and I even believe the reason he has popped out so much is because all the other guys aren't really fast; they are kind of slow. So Dane isn't quick, and neither is Benford. So it would be really important to have Kyrie Irving playing really well because we know all the speed that people has in the division. Hardman, Hill, Waddle, just to mention a few. So the Bills would really be in a good place if Kyrie Irving had been able to secure that cornerback two spot, but it hasn't happened. So it makes me believe that maybe, just maybe, I don't know. I really question if Kyrie Irving is gonna be the best version of himself as a Bills player, and maybe he's a valuable piece. Maybe not so valuable because it's hard to trade some of those guys after they get drafted. They lose a lot of value. A lot of people have questions about why Kyrie Irving hasn't been able to see the field, but it's something that I'd consider if he's gonna really get stuck behind Dan Jackson and behind Christian Benford going forward. Speaking of trades and trade value, Isaiah Simmons from the Cardinals, a guy who I even mentioned during pre-draft process and mock draft season. I even talked about maybe offering even Ed Oliver for Isaiah Simons in a pick, because Isaiah Simons is a really intriguing prospect, a really intriguing player with all the athletic ability in the world. He's in a middle linebacker right now, but he could be prepared for that. He could learn the defense. He could be a project for that. A guy who has played linebacker, has played safety, has played nickel. So the Giants just traded a seventh round pick for him, and that's a deal that I'd do easily. And Joe Schoen did for the Giants and Dable. That's a guy that I'd love to have as an option, maybe to be prepared as a middle linebacker or even as a depth piece. Because if Cyron Neal has found a nice role, Isaiah Simons is even more athletic and a better athlete. So anyway, and some trades happened today. The Bills weren't involved in any, and people started to question uh, Brandon Bean about it, because the Cardinals traded the tackle Jones to the Texans for a fifth round, and so to the Bills to beat that offer, it would need to be a fourth or maybe a fifth plus something, because obviously the expectation is that the Texans pick is gonna be higher than the Bills pick. So even if that's been the case, that's a deal that makes people question Brandon Bean, how how much he's been paying attention to the market, and I really don't believe this deal happened without him realizing he could do something. I think he just wasn't um, ready to beat that offer with a fourth rounder or a fifth plus something. But I believe to beat that offer, it would need to be a fourth, since the Texans pick should be way better than the Bills pick. But the moves are happening, so it's gonna be interesting to see to see Bean during these last 2 weeks before the week one, because the Bills can be active searching for a tackle or for some help, even at linebacker, and that's something I keep an eye on even after this game against the Bears, obviously. And still on the defense, a lot of decisions to be made, because we have a lot of guys that are playing for a spot in the 53. Defensive line, Boogie Basham had a lot of opportunities last week. Is he gonna see the field ahead of others again, like ahead of Shaq Lawson, ahead of AJ Peneza maybe? He saw a lot of the field last week, and I repeat, I'd keep Boogie instead of AJ Peneza easily at this point. But Epineza has had more success in season, and maybe the coaching staff trusts him more. He has been the more proven pass rusher so far in their careers. But I'm really impressed by Boogie's form, how he has played well, how he's stay active, and he looked good. He looked fast. He looked lighter than he's been before. So I hope he can play really well this game against the Bears, and I'm really curious to see what's been gonna do. He has some people that he can move, maybe not for a lot of stuff, but for intriguing players. And I won't even say picks, but maybe for intriguing players that can come in and contribute at places the Bills need, especially tackle position and even linebacker. So it's important so those guys play really well and be even if it's just to elevate their value as trade options. Remember when in the first year McDermott arrived, uh, right in the first game of preseason, I remember the Bills um, featuring Sammy Watkins a lot. It was like every pass, every the first 3-4 passes from Tyrod Taylor right directly to Sammy Watkins, and I was like a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, this year is gonna be Sammy Watkins' year." And right after this game, the Bills traded Sammy Watkins. So maybe this boogie movement, giving him more playing time, they're setting him for a trade, maybe setting him up for a trade, maybe. Who knows? He's got a lot of opportunities, especially early. I hope not. I hope Boogie can stick around, but we'll see. And even Kair right now, and at safety also, the Bills have a lot of safety depth right now because Ken Lewis has really his first game was against the Steelers, but he came back playing really well, active, fast. I loved how he played in his snaps, and in my opinion, he looked better than Damar Hamlin. And it's tough right now related to Damar Hamlin because he had success as a starter. He filled in decently in Hyde's place, but I believe Ken Lewis has played better than him last season. If not that catch by Jefferson, everybody would have talked way more good things about Ken Lewis. And the Bills have Anderson there. The Bills have Marlowe there. The Bills have Taylor Rapp there, obviously a lock. So a lot of options at safety, and the Bills will need to move on from some of those guys. And so, is it Hamlin? Is it Ken Lewis? I don't know. All I know that there are a lot of safeties, and the Bills will need to cut some of those guys. Same thing, defensive line. So that's some of the battles in this game. And the same thing, offensive line with Vandermark and Gorage, who has impressed in few snaps, and that's a rookie, undrafted rookie, but has showed some potential as a right tackle. So all those guys will have opportunities against the Bears, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can really do their jobs, play really well, and carve a place in this 53-man roster. And just to finish, the even the tight end room, because I really believe Kincaid has his own role as a starter slot slash tight end two guy. And if Dawson Knox can't go in some games, I don't think they're gonna use Kincaid in some of the dirty job Knox has to do inside. So Morris and Sternberg, they are fighting for a spot that might see some snaps during this season. The first backup spot at the tight end position, considering Kincaid a starter already. So Morris, I believe, is ahead of Sternberger, but the guy still has a chance to impress during this game against the Bears. And to close it out, the quarterback position, the backup quarterback position, obviously, because it's been 1-1, right? When Kyle Allen got the first shot, Matt Barkley impressed. When Matt Barkley got the first shot, Kyle Allen impressed. And then Barkley got injured. And it's something a storyline to keep an eye on during this Bears game, because we will see Barkley playing, and can Kyle Allen really have two nice games in a row and secure that quarterback two spot? That's a spot we don't want to ever see on the field, right? We want to see those guys holding the clipboard on the sideline and being nice complement to Josh Allen in the film room. But that's a competition that's going on, and something to see during this Bears game. What are you going to see going to really pay attention during this game, Bills Mafia? Let me know in the chat, in the comment sections, YouTube and even Buffalo Rumblings message boards. I really appreciate you taking your time, and I'll be back on Sunday uh, with my leading the charge in Portuguese, right? And right after the leading the charge in Portuguese at 7 p.m. East, I will record my quick leading the charge from Sundays. That's gonna be available via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast aggregator. So I really appreciate you taking your time. Hit that like button, subscribe to Buffalo Rumblings channel, subscribe to my own Fernando Schmude channel. I really appreciate all Bills Mafia, and I hope you can enjoy a good game against the Bears. We can see the starters doing well. We can see the guys coming in and out of the field as healthy as ever, and we can feel a little bit better about week one against the Jets with the starters coming in, doing their jobs, playing really well, and getting out of the field in a healthy way. Okay, Mafia. So that's it. See you around. See you on Sunday. Go Bills.